chaos and nonsense will reign supreme.
Let me tell you about Lady Velma. We met one night while I was on a nighttime beach stroll with my 2 children. We had waited for it to get dark so we could use torches and have some spotlight fun. It was wet and windy, but that didn't deter us. We all had raincoats on and umbrellas in hand. It turned out the umbrellas were a mistake, as once we made our way from the holiday cabin we had rented towards the beach, the wind started to really pick up, and my youngest child's umbrella was torn out of his hands, and it went flying off to never be seen again. At that point, my other child and I closed our umbrellas, and we continued on down the beach. We'd hardly made it onto the beach when in my torch beam we spotted a naked Barbie doll laying partly submerged in the sand, as if she'd fallen from a bag and then been trodden on. I picked her up, shook her off, and just carried her in my hand for the rest of our short beach stroll, without really thinking much of it. Our beach stroll didn't last much past that, as it was really blowing a gale down by the sea, and my youngest wasn't finding it all that enjoyable. I did pause as we were walking back up the beach access track and questioned what I was going to do with this naked Barbie in my hand, but something in my head told me to take her home with me. So I did. I took her back to the cabin and left her lying in the sink. We all got ready for bed, and that was the end of it for that night. The next day, when I saw her in the sink, naked and dirty, I decided to wash her. So while drinking my morning coffee, I bathed her in the sink with some dish soap. I had to give her a good scrub as her plastic was quite marked, making me think she must have been there for a little while, rather than a child losing her earlier that day. Once she'd air dried, I made a dress out of a paper bag and a hairbands that I had on the counter, to give her some dignity. Later in the day, when my youngest saw her sitting with my art supplies on the dining table, he remarked, "Why are you keeping that? It's creepy." I then knew this doll was mine, and I felt an immediate kinship to her. She had been lost by someone who probably loved her dearly once. She had been naked and scared and stuck on a beach for God knows how long, and now a little boy had called her creepy? Yes. My doll indeed. This all happened back in the school holidays of October 2023. Since getting back from that faithful holiday, she's peacefully spent her time on my desk, snuggled up to Groot amongst my plants and knickknacks. I've looked at her in passing, as I do all the pretty things on my desk, and she has not called my attention until the other morning, when I woke up just before 2 a.m. with the desire to get her some clothes. So I hopped on Amazon on my phone, and lo and behold, the endless array of Barbie attire available. That was Wednesday morning. This morning, Friday, I woke up just after 3 a.m. with the desire to dye her hair. I lay in bed fighting it until 4:30. Then I snuck out to the kitchen and got some cling wrap and paper towel. I then got out my stock of hair dye from my wardrobe and set to work on my bedroom floor, trying to be as quiet as possible because it was so fucking early and every other cunt was still asleep. And yes, not having gloves on while dyeing her hair was a deliberate choice, as I didn't want to make any more noise rooting around in the laundry cupboard looking for some, so right now my hands have a nice coloured hue. I will say that dyeing a doll's hair is quite fiddly and harder than I expected, so please don't get your hopes too high for the reveal. Now let's talk about her name, Lady Velma Veronica Vermin. At this point, I decided it might be funny to use the story of how I came to have this Barbie and the events that led me to dyeing her hair at 4:30 in the morning as a video for my alphabet superset. In my head, when I questioned what her name was, something I had not done previously, she had just been the rescued Barbie, I heard Veronica, followed by the chorus of Untouched by the Veronicas.
Feel so untouched right now.
Cheers, ladies. Dope fucking song. So then I thought, okay, then Veronica for the Veronicas. But then my brain said, What about Velma, Veronica? And I replied, needs a last name that feels like a last name, though. I toyed around with verbatim because I've always liked the way that word sounded in my head, but my head said back to me, Vermin. And since I found her naked and dirty on a beach at night, yes, Vermin was very fitting. And the lady part? Well, that's 'cause she is one, and I will not hear a fucking word against her otherwise. So, without further ado, I introduce Lady Velma Veronica Vermin to the world.
Go crazy from the moment I met you! Chaos and nonsense will reign supreme.
Peace! Bullshit.